Peace be upon you and God's mercy. Music, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Praise be to God and peace and blessings be upon the messenger of God, his family, his companions, and those who follow him. O God, there is nothing easy except what you make easy, and you make sorrow easy. If you will, we ask God, the blessed and exalted, just as he has gathered us in obedience to him, to gather us in his paradise, the abode of his mercy and the home of his honor. This is the 64th session of the prophetic biography. Upon its owner be the best of prayers and peace. There was something I missed mentioning, or rather something that should have been mentioned last time. We mentioned that these laws, which were instituted in the second year of the Hijra, increased the strength, cohesion, and unity of the Muslim community. The issues of fasting, Zakat al-Fitr, the law of Zakat, and Eid al-Fitr. We also mentioned, of course, the death of the Prophet, the death of Ruqayyah, and before that, the change of the Qibla. All of this had an effect on the cohesion of the Muslim community. It should have been mentioned that there was a new practice in Ramadan as well, which is itikaf, seclusion in the mosque. In truth, it is not clear to me whether itikaf was introduced in the second year or in the previous year. This means that this is something I haven't been able to fully understand or even approximate, but I would like to remind you that when Muslims fasted the month of Ramadan with its fasting and night prayers and all the spiritual closeness and spiritual elevation it brought them, there was also an intensive program during the last days of Ramadan, the ritual of itikaf, seclusion in the mosque. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, used to observe itikaf, as did his companions, may God be pleased with them. The Prophet also liked it for women to observe itikaf in their prayer corners in their homes. This itikaf has several effects on the Muslim community, including spiritual and religious elevation, social cohesion, closeness, mutual understanding, and solidarity. I think all of you, my dear brothers and sisters, have experienced itikaf and its benefits. Sometimes during itikaf, a person's true character is revealed in ways that are apparent at other times. Women love it because it involves prolonged prayer and recitation, and the time isn't wasted on anything pointless. These are among the matters that serve as places and gatherings where Muslims get to know one another and grow closer. Indeed, a person might know someone for a year, 2 or 3, yet only discover their devotional and religious side during times of seclusion. This should have been included in the previous session. Then, God willing, we will continue with the events that occurred this year. Among the most important and interesting of these events, and the one filled with lessons and wisdom, is the marriage of Ali to Fatima, the daughter of Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Our master Ali, may God be pleased with him, was raised in the household of the Prophet. As you know, we mentioned in previous sessions that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, spoke with his uncle Abbas, asking him to take care of some of Abu Talib's children, as Abu Talib had many children and was a poor man. So the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, took care of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and Ali was raised in the Prophet's care. If we consider that he was among the people most exposed to the greatest upbringing from his very beginning, it is undoubtedly Ali ibn Abi Talib. He is the purest source. This is a man raised by the most perfect and best of people, and the greatest of people. Our master Ali ibn Abi Talib has a special place in this regard. It seems, and God knows best, that what was known about Ali Ibn Abi Talib was that he loved Fatima, because in the hadith about his marriage to her, Ali says, "My freed slave said to me, 'Do you know that Fatima is being proposed to by the Messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him?'" Well, the beginning of this question indicates a kind of feeling that he wanted to propose to Fatima. He said yes, she said, then proposed to her on his behalf. He said, and with what? Our master Ali was a poor man. He said, and what do I have? Of course, in another narration, less detailed but more authentic, our master Ali, may God be pleased with him, when he heard that she was being proposed to, hesitated to go to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, to propose to Fatima. He says, then I remembered his kindness and his connection. You know, some of our sheikhs and some of those who raised us, may God have mercy on those who have passed away and protect those who are still alive. There are some people, my friends, who reach such a high level of character that no matter what your situation is, you turn to them and feel close to them. And no matter how much you have neglected them, for example, and cut them off for time and didn't ask about them, if something troubles you, you don't hesitate to go to them even though you are not fulfilling their rights and are falling short. Regarding his right, here you see our Master Ali, may God be pleased with him, resolve his hesitation based on what he knew of the Prophet's character, peace and blessings be upon him. Then his kindness and connection to her were mentioned, so she went to him. Of course, now I am combining the two narrations to get to the point of the story without going into detail or specifying details. Our master Ali ibn Abi Talib went to Fatima. Before Ali ibn Abi Talib, a number of people had proposed to her, God knows best, but among those we know were Abu Bakr and Umar, may God be pleased with them both. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, used to tell them that she was too young. From this, the scholars understood and concluded that compatibility in age is desirable in marriage. Here, my dear friends, we must also differentiate between two things. What is desirable in marriage is one thing, and the age difference being a barrier or a defect is another. That is, it is preferable, even desirable, for the age difference between the man and woman to be close. It is desirable, but this should not be a barrier or an obstacle, nor should it be seen as a defect if it is not. How many men have married women younger or older than themselves? This is in the biography of the Prophet himself and in the biographies of his companions. Sometimes it means that it is very bad in contemporary culture that, for example, if a man marries a young woman, he says, I married someone the age of my daughter, or I married someone the age of her father, or مما يفضل ويستحب ويحبذ التقارب في السن، لكن وقعت الموافقة فلا ينبغي أن يكون هذا عيبا. ولذلك سنرى بعد قليل المفترض أننا رأينا أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم تزوج بمن هي أكبر منه سيدة خديجة. I married someone the age of my mother. People prefer like and like the closeness in age, but the agreement was made, so this should not be a defect. Therefore we will see shortly that we have seen that the Prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, married someone older than him, Lady Khadijah, and he married someone younger than him, Lady Aisha. And we will see after that, for example, who is older in age, our Master Omar or our Master Ali. Our Master Omar. So, our Master Omar married the daughter of our Master Ali. What was the age difference between them? At the age of 49. Our Master Umar married Kulthum, the daughter of Ali, may God be pleased with him. The age difference between them was 49 years. Marriage in Islamic society, in the Islamic environment, is a matter of flexibility. People shouldn't complicate this matter, or surround it with problems and a culture that makes it difficult for a woman to remarry if her husband dies or she is divorced, or for a man to take a second wife if he is divorced or remarries, or based on age restrictions. This is what people impose on themselves. When they restrict what is permissible, they open the door to what is forbidden. This is what happens. So our master Ali, may God be pleased with him, went to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, Ali, whom we used to fear, was speechless as soon as he sat with me. The Prophet said, you have a need, and Ali couldn't speak until he mentioned it 3 times. Then the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, perhaps you have come to propose to Fatima. He said, yes, O Messenger of God. He said, do you have anything? He said, by God, O Messenger of God, I have nothing. He said, where is your chainmail? He said, O Messenger of God, it is with me, but what is this hatmiya? It's something completely insignificant. Some accounts say its price was 4 dirhams. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, I have married her to you for this amount of money. This is the beginning of the marriage of Lady Fatima to our Master Ali, may God be pleased with him. Then a calamity befell our Master Ali, a rather pleasant one. Now our Master Ali was preparing for the marriage. He said, the Messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, gave me a she-camel from the spoils of Badr. A she-camel is an old camel, so our Master Ali's share of the spoils of Badr was a she-camel. Then he gave me another she-camel, a she. Camel from the fifth. Remember when we talked about the spoils, we said that the spoils were divided into fifths. 1/5 went to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and the Prophet spent it on the interests of the Muslims. From this fifth, some of it went to the Prophet's relatives, and our Master Ali was among the poor. So the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, gave him another she-camel from the fifth. So our Master Ali had 2 she-camels. These 2 she-camels belonged to our Master Ali. He was arranging the marriage, saying, I made a promise with a man from the Jewish tribe of Banu Kainuka. The important thing is the matter of arranging the marriage. The 2 camels were placed in the courtyard of a man from the Ansar, supposedly to buy some kind of sweet grass to prepare for the wedding. But our Master Hamza was near this place at a gathering of Ansar companions. Sharb here means a gathering of friends, and of course at that time wine hadn't been forbidden, so people drank wine. A slave girl was singing. The slave girl saw 2 camels in the courtyard and started singing. You know how the Arabs used to improvise poetry. O Hamza, for the honor of the Nawawi. Anyway, I recited some verses to him, the gist of which was, we have a respectable feast. I'll put it in colloquial Arabic, we have a respectable feast, but it's in the courtyard. I wonder who can do what? Go and slaughter an animal and prepare a proper meal for us. That's the meaning of the poem. Oh, Hamza, for the honor of the Nawawi. It means something like that. In the courtyard, someone would put the knife in the heart of the camel. Anyway, praise be to God, the poem escaped me, but that's the meaning. A dish of dried meat or grilled meat, meaning what do we want to make from them? A dish of fata or grilled meat. Our Master Hamza went out to the 2 camels and took their humps. The hump is the best part of the camel. Haytham Altai used to boast that in times of hardship, if a guest came to him, he would feed him from the camel's hump, not from just any part of it. Didn't you know that if a guest came to me and the food was scarce, meaning the time was not for generosity, there was no hospitality? Recite the verse, recite the verse. I will feed him from the precious camel's hump. Recite the verse. I will feed him from the precious camel's hump. So our Master Hamza did as he was told. He took their humps, he cut open their bellies, he took from their livers, and that's it. The gathering was complete. There was drinking and there was eating, and everything was fine. Our Master Ali said, when I returned, I saw a sight that horrified me and I couldn't control my Eyes. You know when someone has, for example, a poor person and God blesses him in 1 month with two camels? I'm talking about us, meaning camels at that time were like two camels. That's how it was for us. Instead of being miserable with transportation, he now had two cars. What happened to the cars? I feel that on the same day he said, I couldn't control my eyes. I asked who did this. They said Hamza in this house. So I went into him. Of course our master Hamza was reading with our master Ali. What is his uncle Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib and Ali bin Abi Talib bin Abdul Muttalib? Of course our master Hamza was the knight of Bani Hashim. So our master Ali was able to speak to our master Hamza, so he rushed to the messenger of God, may God bless him and grant him peace. And before he could speak he said, the messenger of God recognized me from my face and said, what's wrong with you? I said, O messenger of God, Hamza attacked my camels, cut off their humps, ripped open their bellies and took their livers. So the Prophet took his cloak and went out and entered to Hamza, and he began to rebuke him and be angry with him. Hamza was drunk, his eyes red, and he began to stare intently at the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. He was staring intently, looking at his knees, his chest, and his eyes. Then he said, are you not my father's slaves? So the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, knew that he was drunk, so the Prophet turned back. He was retreating, meaning he was turning his back while still. Seeing what was in front of him, because this was someone unpredictable. If you turned around and went back, you didn't know what he might do. So the Prophet turned back completely, and the plan that our Master Ali, may God be pleased with him, wanted to carry out was thwarted by what he did to our master Hamza. The narrations do not mention what he did after that, except that the narrations mentioned, as I think in the Musnad on the authority of Burayda, may God be pleased with him, that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said there must be a wedding from a feast. Saad said, I will provide a ram, and others said, I will provide such and such amount of corn. So the feast was set up, meaning far from these two shepherds, before wine was prohibited. Anyway, if the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, married Fatima, the messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, provided her with the following: a white velvet cloak, a white wool cloak. Okay, let's count together. What do we call this in Egypt? Sheikh? Yes, the messenger of God provided her with that, a cloak, which is a white wool cloak, and a water jug, a water bottle in. Modern terms, and a leather pillow. The leather pillow was stuffed with a fragrant plant called idkir. This was Fatima's dowry. May God be pleased with her, even though Fatima was the beloved of the Messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, and his most beloved daughter. And Lady Aisha, may God be pleased with her, said, I have not seen anyone whose speech and manner of speaking were more like the Messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, than Fatima. Fatima, the daughter of the Messenger of God, may God bless him and grant him peace, and when she approached him he would stand up for her, kiss her, and sit beside her. And when he entered upon her, she would stand up for him, kiss him, and sit beside him. In another narration it is said, I have not seen anyone more like the Messenger of God in appearance, conduct, or manner than Fatima. May God be pleased with her, the daughter of Muhammad. May God be pleased with her. Fatima was the most beloved of the Prophet's daughters. May God bless him and grant him peace, and yet this was her dowry in this manner of simplicity. She is the mistress of the women of paradise. This is a hadith in the two Sahihs. It says Fatima is the mistress of the women of paradise, or the mistress of the believing women, and the Prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, instructed Ali ibn Abi Talib that he should not enter upon his daughter until he came to them. So the Prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, came to them, and they performed ablution. Then he poured the water for ablution over Ali ibn Abi Talib, and began to supplicate for them, O God, bless them and bless their offspring, may God be pleased with them. So who are their offspring? Our master Ali, may God be pleased with him, had 5 children with Fatima, we know that. Hassan and Hussein are famous because they are the masters of the youth of paradise, and they are the 2 fragrant flowers of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. There are well-known hadiths and virtues about them, but she also gave birth to Musin, incidentally the messenger of God. Named Hassan and Hussein. There is a narration that Ali wanted to name him Harb, but when the Prophet heard that, he said, rather it is Hassan. Then he said, rather it is Hussein. Then he said, rather it is Musin. And in another narration he named him Abdullah or Jafar. But the point here is that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, is the one who named them. So there are Hassan, Hussein, Musin, and Kulthum. We mentioned earlier that Kulthum married Umar, may God be pleased with him. Of course, Umar married her because he wanted to be close to the Prophet. Peace and blessings be upon him. He wanted to have a marital relationship with the Prophet through Hafsa and a kinship relationship through Kulthum, the daughter of Ali ibn Abi Talib, may God be pleased with her. And that is what Umar said, I heard the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, say, all lineage and ties are severed except those related to me, so I wanted to have a lineage and ties with the messenger of God. And Zainab, this one was also born to Fatima and Ali ibn Abi Talib, may God be pleased with him. Of course, Kulthum, daughter of Ali, was widowed by Umar ibn al-Khattab, and after him she married 3 of her cousins, the sons of her paternal uncle Jafar ibn Abi Talib. She married Abdullah, and she married another. So, this is the lineage that came from the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Fatima was 18 years old at that time, and Umar, may God be pleased with him, was 25. Fatima died at the age of 7, may God be pleased with her, and she died 6 months after the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Yes. As for our master Ali, may God be pleased with him, he lived for 30 years after her, because our master Ali died in the year. Remember, our master Ali died on the same date as the Battle of Badr, the 17th of Ramadan, 40 during the Fajr prayer in the Mosque of Kufa, when the most wretched of people, Abd al-Rahman ibn, he was stabbed and died a martyr. May God have mercy on him and be pleased with him. Okay, pray for the Prophet. We said that our Prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, had 4 daughters, Zainab, Ruqayya, Kulthum, and Fatima. Okay, Ruqayya and then Kulthum. Who did they marry? They married Uthman ibn Affan, and Fatima married Ali ibn Abi Talib. Okay, does anything about this catch your attention? Was Uthman rich or poor? Very rich. Our master Uthman prepared the army of hardship. Okay. What was our master Ali? Yeah, we have never heard in the biography that Lady Fatima said to our master Ali what? He didn't tell me. For example, one of my siblings, correct. We have not heard that the Prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace. For example, Fatima complained of something, so he went to our master Ali and said to him, what? You didn't have any money, and we married you off and made you a man. If you had gone to someone else, no one would have paid you any attention. Is that true or not? In the house of the prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, and in the Sunnah of the prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, regarding marriage, in the marriage of his daughters, there are truly very important educational lessons. You will never find that Lady Fatima complained of poverty to anyone, neither to her brothers nor to other people. The only time that Lady Fatima complained of poverty was because the Prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, received captives in one of the battles. Captives, right? The situation at home was very difficult. Our Master Ali was working for wages, drawing water from the wells. He would
في سقاية القوم بالدلاء من الآبار، يعني كان يسقي الناس، يرفع الدلاء من
draw
الآبار
water for people,
بأجرة.
lifting buckets from the wells for payment. When
فلما
he heard that
سمع
captives had been brought to the Prophet,
بجاء
peace
النبي
and
صلى الله عليه وسلم
blessings be upon him,
بسقية
he told
فاطمة
Fatima, "Go to your
ابنتي
father, for I have
وسائدتي
complained of pain in my
فإني
chest,"
قد
or in
شكوت
another
صدري، وفي
narration, "I
رواية
have
قد
complained
شكوت
of pain in my
ظهري.
back," due to his work of
لما
lifting and
هو في عمله من الدلاء، رفع الدلاء وسقاية الدلاء. فقالت وأنا والله اشتكيت
drawing
يداي
water
من
from the wells, she
الروحة،
replied, "And
لأن
I,
طبعا
by
عندنا
God, have
روحة
complained of pain in my hands from the
حجران
millstone."
لا
The
يعرفهما
millstone is made of
الغافلون،
two hard stones
حجران
unfamiliar to modern people, between
شديدان
which wheat is
يوضع
placed and
بينهما
ground. He used
القمح
to grind it
فيطحن.
manually. Of course, grinding wheat under
فكان
the
يطحن
stones is
يدويا،
physically
فهو طحن
demanding and
القمح تحت الحجر أمر يحتاج قوة جسدية ومتعب لا شك. فهذه هي
undoubtedly
اللحظة التي
tiring.
ذهبت
This was
فيها
the moment
فاطمة
when
إلى
Fatima went
النبي
to
صلى
the
الله عليه
Prophet, peace and
وسلم
blessings be upon him,
تشكو
to
إليه.
complain to him. The narration
وذكرت
mentions
الرواية
that when she
أنها
went to
ذهبت
him and
إليه
he asked her what she
فلما
needed, she
سألها
remained
حاجتها
silent,
سكتت،
unable to speak. She was either
يعني لم
shy
تستطع أن تتكلم، استحيت منه. أو ذهبت فلم تجده عند عائشة، في رواية عند أم
or had
سلمة
gone to Aisha's
فيذكر
house, or in
حاجتها
another
ورجع.
narration too, Salama's, so she didn't
وسئل
mention her need and
عليها
returned. Our
ولم
Master Ali
يصلها
also
النبي
went to the
ورجع.
Prophet's house, feeling shy
ولكن
before
لما
him, and
اجتمعوا معا
returned,
ذات
until
يوم
one day the two of
مرة
them encouraged each
رايحين
other
مع
and
بعض،
went together.
يا رسول
"What are we going
الله
to do
احنا
together, O
هنحتاج
Messenger of
الخادم.
God? We need a servant, a
يعني
servant." The
الوضع
situation
صعب.
had become
طيب كيف رد عليهما النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم؟
difficult, so how could they? The Prophet, peace
قال
and
لا
blessings
والله
be
لا
upon him, replied, "No,
أعطيكما
by God, I will not give you
وأترككما
one,
في
and leave the people
الصفة
of the Sufa hungry."
يجوعون.
Our Master, the Prophet, peace
سيدنا
and
النبي
blessings
صلى
be
الله
upon
عليه
him, had
وسلم
Fatima,
فاطمة
his
أحب
most
بناته
beloved
إليه،
daughter, and Ali, his cousin and
وعلي
foster son, who
ابن
was like a
عمه
son to him.
وربيبه الذي
He
هو بمثابة ولده لم يرضى
refused to
أن
give them a
يعطيهما
servant because
خادم،
the
لأنه
Prophet's
كان
plan
قرر
was
النبي
to
أن هذا
sell these
السبي
captives and
سيبيعه النبي
then
صلى الله
spend
عليه
the
وسلم
proceeds on the
ثم
people of the Sufa,
ينفقهم
on
على أهل
the poor
الصفة،
of the Muslim
على
community.
فقراء
Now tell me,
المسلمين.
what ruler, governor,
طب يا جماعة الآن من حاكم، من محافظ، من مدير، من أي راعي في أي مكان تحتاج
manager,
ابنته أو
or
ابنه
shepherd
إلى
in any
هذا الأمر،
place needs his
ثم
daughter or
يصرف
son for
مالا
this amount of money, he would
بيده
spend
وفي
money that was
صلاحيته
in his
ونصيبه
possession and
وينفقه
within his
عليهما
authority on them, and
ثم يذهب
then
به إلى
give it to the
الفقراء.
poor.
ثم
Then the
قال لهما
Prophet,
النبي صلى
peace and
الله عليه وسلم،
blessings be upon him, went to their house to
فذهب إليهما
comfort
في
them and
بيتهما
entered their bed with them. This was
تطيبا
his daughter and this
لاختيارهما،
was his foster son. He said,
ودخل
"Shall I
معهما أي
not
في
guide you to
بيتهما
something
الذي
better
به
for
هو
you?"
وربيبه، وقال ألا أدلكما على ما هو خير لكما من خادم، فذكر لهما إذا آويتما إلى فراشكما
Then a
فسبحا الله
servant, he told them, "When you
33
go to your beds, glorify
وحمده
God 33 and
33
praise him 33 times
وكبروه
and magnify him
34،
34
فتلك
times,
لك
and that is
فهي
100
خير
times, and it is
لكما من
better for
خادم.
you than a servant."
هذا
This
هو
is the
العلاج
remedy that the
الذي أعطاه
Prophet, may
النبي صلى
God
الله
bless
عليه
him and grant
وسلم
him peace, gave to his daughter, the
لابنته أحب
dearest of his
بناته
daughters to
إليه
him, and to his cousin, who
وابن
was his
عمه
foster
الذي هو
son and like a son
وربيبه
to him. And the
وبمثابة
scholars
ولده.
stopped here at this
والعلماء
prophetic
صرفون
advice. Well, from this
عند
prophetic
هذه النصيحة
advice, some
النبوية.
scholars
طيب
deduced
هذه
that
النصيحة النبوية استنبط منها بعض العلماء أن ذكر الله يقوي البدن حقيقة،
remembrance is remembrance, that remembrance of
لأنه
God strengthens the
يعني
body in
كيف فهم
reality. Because
العلماء
how did the scholars
هذا المعنى
understand this
الجليل؟
meaning?
كيف
That
استخرجوا
is,
هذا
how
المعنى؟
did they extract this
أن
meaning?
النبي
The
صلى الله
Prophet,
عليه
may
وسلم
God's prayers and peace be upon
أعطاه
him, gave it a
علاجا
treatment for those who
لمن
wanted a
أراد
servant.
خادما. انت لما بتروح لدكتور وتطلب منه دواء للعين مش
When you
بيديك
go to a
دواء
doctor and ask him
يضر
for medicine for the
يضر
eye,
الجهاز
you
العصبي
do not have
بسبب ايه؟
medicine for the ear, you do not have
لذلك
medicine for the
استنبط فيه
nervous
بعض
system. What do
العلماء
you
انه
have
هذا
medicine
الذكر
for? If some
تحديدا
scholars have
يقوي
deduced from
البدن.
it that this particular supplication
كيف ذلك؟
strengthens the body, how
سرا
is
عند
that?
الله
It is a
تبارك
secret
وتعالى.
known only to God, the
تمام.
Most High, the Most Blessed.
واستنبط بعض
Some
العلماء
scholars have
ان
deduced that
الذكر
remembrance of
عموما
God in
يقوي،
general
ليس هذا الذكر على وجه التحديد، ولكن حيث ان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم اوصاهما بذكر
strengthens the body.
فعموم
This isn't a
الذكر
specific type of
يقوي
remembrance, but
البدن.
since the Prophet peace and blessings be
وبعض
upon him
العلماء
instructed them
استنبط
to
من
engage
هذه
in
الوصية
remembrance, remembrance in
أن
general strengthens
الذكر
the body. Some
يقوي
scholars have
الروح
also deduced
والروح
from
تحمي
this
البدن.
instruction that remembrance strengthens the
وفيها
soul and the
هذه
soul
الأمور
sustains the
الثلاثة
body.
يعني
Both of these three aspects have
فيها
merit. Let
فيها
me tell you
وجه
something.
وفيها
Now, the
فيها
simplest example
وجهان
is the
في الكلام.
Fajr prayer.
أخبركم
We
بشيء.
all go to the mosque for Fajr prayer
الآن
and we
أبسط
find that
الأمثلة
elderly.
صلاة الفجر. كلنا نذهب إلى الجامع في صلاة الفجر فنجد قد سبقنا إلى هذا الجامع
Men
رجال
have preceded us, they walk
بلغتهم
slowly and
الشيخوخة
exert themselves to
ويسيرون
reach the
بالرمح
mosque to pray Fajr. These
ويتحاملون
men, my
حملة
friends, are
الشديد
sustained
حتى
by the
يصلوا
strength of their
الفجر
bodies or the strength of
بالجماعة.
their souls. It's
هؤلاء يا جماعة حملتهم قوة أجسادهم أم قوة أرواحهم؟ قوة إيه؟ صح ولا
true,
لا؟
isn't it? You find that a
يعني
person,
تجد
even a young
الذي
person, might
يهيئ
be
نفسه
lazy about
للذهاب
praying Fajr or about
يتكاسل
praying
عن
the
صلاة الفجر
night prayer. Yet
ويتكاسل
you
عن قيام
find
الليل،
elderly people, some even, unable to
ومع
walk who
ذلك
never miss
تجد من
the
كبار السن وممن لا يستطيعون أحيانا المشي من لا يفتر عن قيام الليل ومن لا يصده عن صلاة الفجر في الجامع
night prayer and who are
في
not
برد
deterred
ولا
from praying
المطر ولا
Fajr at
الحر
the
ولا
mosque
الغيظ
by cold,
ولا
rain,
المسافة ولا
heat,
إني
distance, or even the
هناك
presence of
كلاب في الطريق
dogs.
ولا إن
On the
الشارع
road,
مظلم
neither the street is dark nor are there
هناك
pillars
أجهاد
in the
في المساجد
mosques. This indicates
أعمدة.
that the issue is not
هذا
one of
يدل
physical
على أن
strength but
المسألة
rather one
ليست
of the heart
مسألة
and
مسألة قلب اليقين
soul.
الذي
The
عند هذا
certainty this
الشيخ
sheikh
أشد من
possesses is
يقين الذي
stronger
عند
than
هذا
that
الشاب،
of this young
ولذلك
man.
نام
That is
هذا
why
وقام
this one
هذا.
slept while that one woke up. Now, how many
الآن
times do
قراءة
you enter a
القرآن كم من
mosque
مرة
or even
تذهب إلى
see people in
الجامع
their shops or
أو
homes unable
حتى
to read the
ترى
Quran?
بعض
They
الناس في محلاتها أو في بيوتها وهو لا يستطيع أن يقرأ القرآن فيقترب منه هذا الاقتراب أو يمسك بعدسة يدقق
approach
بها
it
حتى
closely
يقرأ
or
المصحف
use a magnifying glass to
وتجد
peer
صحة
through it
حالا
until they can read the
يقرؤون القرآن.
Quran. Yet you find those with perfect eyesight neglecting the Quran.
فالحق
Truly, it is
يعني
the
الروح هي التي تحمل
soul
البدن.
that sustains the body.
ولذلك
That
تراها
is
في
why we
شهر
are more
رمضان
diligent in worship
أجلل
during
على
Ramadan than at
الرجال
other
من
times.
في
You will
غيره
find someone who finds it difficult to
فتجد
pray
الذي
2
يصعب
rakas
عليه أن
every
يقوم
night
ركعتين
during
في
Ramadan,
الليل
praying
في
at
شهر
least 8
رمضان
rakas,
على
and some may
الأقل
even
يقوم
increase
8
their
ركعات على
prayers. Those
الأقل
who are able to
وقد
maintain
يزيد.
their Quranic
من يعثر
recitation during
عليه أن
Ramadan
يقرأ
strive to
القرآن
complete
في
it.
شهر رمضان يختم مرة على الأقل
At
فإما
least
أن
once,
الذكر
so either all remembrance
كله
strengthens the body,
يقوي
or
البدن
this
أو إما أن
specific
هذا هو
remembrance strengthens the
المخصوص
body, or
أو إما
remembrance
أن الذكر
strengthens the soul and the soul sustains
يقوي
the
الروح
body.
والروح
All of
تحمل
this
البدن.
was
كل
deduced by
هذا
scholars from the
استنبطه
Prophet's
العلماء
peace
من
and
وصية
blessings be
النبي صلى
upon
الله
him
عليه
advice
وسلم
to Fatima
لفاطمة
and
زوج
Ali, but
النبي.
still, as
لكن
we
يظل ونحن نتكلم الآن عن السيرة ونحن نتكلم عن بيت
talk about the
النبي
Prophet's
وبنات النبي
biography, and as we
وسياسة
talk about his
النبي.
household, his
انظر إلى
daughters, and his
رجل
policies,
أنفق
consider this.
أمواله في
Man who
رعاية
spent his wealth
فقراء
caring for the
المسلمين
poor.
وبنته
Muslims, and his
من
own daughter was
الفقراء
poor, yet he
لم
refused
يرضى أن
to give her a
يعطيها
servant,
خادما
peace and blessings be upon him. Also
صلى الله
consider
عليه
the
وسلم. وكذلك انظر في استجابة الصحابة وخضوعهم لقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم.
companions' response and submission to the Prophet's words, peace and
المشكلة
blessings be
دلوقتي
upon him.
يعني
It
مش
was,
عايز أقول
and
إيه،
simple back then. What I
نسمي
mean
مثال
is,
ده
let's
عشان
leave
مثال
this
ثابت.
example aside for now because it's a
تخيلوا
noble
دلوقتي يجي
example.
واحد معاه
Imagine
فلوس
now if a
ويجي
man
يقول
has
له
money and his daughter
أنا
asks him
عايزة
for a
ساعة،
washing
عايزة
machine
ثلاجة،
or a
عايزة،
refrigerator, and he
وقال لها طب إيه رأيك تذكري الله 33 وتحمدي
tells
الله
her, what do you think
33
about remembering
وتقولي
God
الحمد لله؟
33 times and praising God 33 times? What would
هنخرج
she
بقى.
say? Are we
صح ولا
joking
لا؟
now? So, also reflect on the companion's obedience to the Prophet, peace and blessings
فأيضا
be upon him,
تأمل
and his
في
submission to them, a
طاعة
word that
الصحابة للنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وخضوعه لهم. الكلمة اللي بتطلع من النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم خلاص لا
comes from
تزال،
the Prophet,
لا
peace and
ترد،
blessings be upon him, is
لا
final. It
يناقش
cannot
فيها.
be questioned, rejected, or
إيمان
debated.
الصحابة
The companions
بأن ما
believed that
جاء
what the
به
Prophet,
النبي
peace
صلى
and
الله عليه
blessings
وسلم
be
وما
upon him,
يرسله
brought,
به
and What he
يعني
advised them was,
فهذا
better for
خير
them than a
من
servant,
دارهم
so it is
قضاء
better for
خير
us
لك
than
من
a
قادم.
servant. Okay, we won't
تمام.
dwell on it, so how
مش هقعد
come,
بقى
the
كل
least.
ده. طب يعني اقل حاجه تتقال، طيب ان شاء الله الغنائم الجايه
That can
امتى؟
be
طب
said is,
ماشي
God willing, when will the next
هنلتزم
spoils
بالذكر
be?
ده
Okay,
من
we'll
اول
stick
الغنائم
to
الجايه
this
للغنائم
remembrance
الجايه ان شاء
until,
الله
but the
ايه
first spoils are
نستغنى
coming,
عنها
God
يعني
willing, what, reserve a servant for
طب
yourself because the matter is, and so the companions of the Prophet, peace and
ولذلك
blessings be upon
صحيفه
him.
النبي صلى الله
This
عليه وسلم
reminds us of another
كانوا يذكرون
situation
هذا
during the
في موقف
conquest of
اخر في
Egypt.
فتح مصر.
Our
سيدنا عمرو بن العاص شق عليه الفتح فارسل الى سيدنا
Master
عمر
Amr ibn
يستمده،
Al-As found the
عايز
conquest
مدد.
difficult, so he sent to
فطلب
our Master
800
Umar seeking
آلاف
reinforcements.
أو
He
أن
asked for
سيدنا عمرو
8,000 men, or
استمد
rather our
به
Master
فأرسل
Amr sought
إليه عمر
Umar's aid and
يقول
Umar sent him,
قد
saying,
أرسلت
I have
لك
sent you
800 آلاف
8,000 men, 4,000 men and 4
و4,000
men, each one
رجل
worth. The
و4
natural
رجال كل
response would
واحد
be, we've
منهم
entered into
فارس.
the realm of.
الرد الطبيعي يبقى إيه برضه؟ دخلنا في الدروشه بقى والكلام اللي يا عم احنا في حرب، احنا مش
Dervish-like talk, man, we're at
ملك
war, we're
المروان قال
not.
له 4
But he told
بألف
him
واثنين 4
4-4,
بألف.
so, really 4-4?
تمام.
Okay, so reflect on the life of
يعني
the
تأمل
Prophet,
في
peace
سيرة
and
النبي صلى
blessings
الله عليه
be
وسلم
upon him,
وتأمل
and
في
also reflect on the
خضوع
submission and
الصحابة
obedience of the
وطاعتهم
companions and
ويعني
their response to the words of the
استجابتهم لقول
Prophet,
النبي
peace and
صلى الله
blessings be
عليه
upon
وسلم.
him. Okay, and
تمام.
here we need, of course, the marriage of Ali
ونحتاج
to
واحنا
Fatima, may God be
طبعا
pleased with her. Some
زواج علي
narrators
وفاطمة
mention it
رضي
in
الله عنها
Shawwal and some
لأن
mention it in
بعض
Dhu al
الرواة يذكر
Hijjah
في
of the
شوال
second year, and the
وأظنه في
most
ذي الحجة
likely
في
is that it
السنة
was in.
الثانية. والأرجح أنه في شوال وذلك لورود ذكر رجل من يهود بني قينقاع
Shawwal, and that
معنا.
is because of the
طيب
mention of a
جماعة
man
قلنا
from the
احنا
Jews
ايه
of Banu,
خرجت مع رجل
Kainuka
من
in the
يهود بني
narration.
قينقاع
Remember when we said what
لما
we
كان
said, so
الشريكين.
she went out with a man
فالأرجح
from Banu
أنها كانت
Kainuka when
قبل
he insulted
هلاك
the two,
بني قينقاع
Sharakain, so the
فكانت في
most
شوال.
likely is that it was
طيب
before the expulsion of Banu
فتأمل ها
Kainuka,
هنا
so it was in
النبي
Shawwal.
صلى الله عليه
Okay, so
وسلم،
consider here the
يعني تأمل في أمرين.
Prophet, may God bless him and grant
الأمر
him peace,
الأول،
meaning consider two
نحن
matters. The
ذكرنا
first
أن
matter is that we mentioned
رقية
that
بنت النبي
Ruqayah, the
صلى الله عليه
daughter of the
وسلم
Prophet,
توفيت
may
متى؟
God bless him and grant him
في
peace, died
رمضان.
when, in
والنبي
Ramadan,
تزوج
the Prophet
بعائشة
married
في
Aisha in Shawwal,
شوال
and Fatima married Ali
وتزوجت
in
من علي
Shawwal.
في
This Shawwal tells you
شوال.
about the nature of Islamic society
وهذا
regarding
يخبرك بطبيعة المجتمع الإسلامي في مسألة الأحزان وفي أنهم
grief and
كانوا
how they moved
يتجاوزون
beyond such
هذه الأحزان.
sorrows. They didn't
لا
dwell on
تقطع
them, nor
يدهم
did grief hold them back
ولا
for
تظل
days or
والأحزان
months. No, one
تعقبهم
questioned,
أيام
criticized,
وشهورا.
condemned, or
يعني ما
objected to
حدش قال
Fatima,
مثلا وما
marrying before
حدش
her sister had
انتقد
even
أو
completed
أدان
a
أو
month, or
استنكر
that the
أن
Prophet
فاطمة تتزوج وأختها لم تكمل شهرا، أو أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم نفسه قد تزوج وابنته لم تكمل
himself
شهرا.
married before his daughter had
تمام.
even completed a month.
ودخل أيضا على
Indeed, there
الناس
has
من
also been
الخلاف
an
في مسألة
exaggeration in people's
الموت
obsession
والعزاء
with
والتوقف
death and
عند
mourning
الأحزان
and
اللي
dwelling on
هو
it, which we shouldn't
يعني لا
discuss.
نتكلم
The
فيه.
second point, my
الأمر
friends,
الثاني يا جماعة
concerns the
في مسألة
facilitation of
تيسير
marriage.
الزواج.
Fatima was the Prophet's
يعني
most
هذه
beloved
فاطمة
daughter.
أحب
Look at
بنات
how.
النبي إليه، انظر خطبها علي رضي الله عنه وأخذها بدرع حطمية، في بعض
Ali, may
الروايات
God be
لا
pleased with him,
يزيد معها
proposed to her
عن
and took
4
her with a
دراهم.
simple shield which, according to some accounts, was
وتيسير
worth no
الزواج
more than
في
4
زمان
dirhams.
فتن هذا
Facilitating marriage in times of
أشد
tribulation is of far greater
أشد
importance and danger than in other
أهمية
times.
وأعظم
And the
خطرا
issue,
من
my
غيرها من
friends,
الأزمان.
is, and solely related to
والمسألة يا جماعة الخير مش متعلقة فقط بمسألة الشهوة والغريزة، وإن كان هذا أمر مهم،
lust and instinct,
لكن
although that
أيضا
is certainly a
متعلقة
factor.
بالمسألة
This is
النفسية.
an important matter, but
يعني
it's also
الله سبحانه
related to the
وتعالى خلق
psychological
المرأة
aspect.
سكنا
God
للرجل.
Almighty created woman as a source of comfort and
سكن للرجل.
tranquility for man. A
يعني
man is
أرادوا بغير
incomplete
المرأة
without a woman,
نقص
even though
عنده
materially speaking he does, and
ماديا،
need her.
يعني
Woman is
بالحساب
all
المادي
problems.
هو مش محتاج المرأة، ده المرأة دي كلها مشاكل وتعب ومسؤوليات. يعني
Hardship and responsibilities.
نتذكر
I
قلنا في مرة
remember we
احنا ما
said
كناش
before that
مسلمين
if we
أو
weren't
كنا ملحدين
Muslims,
مثلا
if we were
كنا نفتكر
atheists,
إن
for
الزواج ده
example, we would
مؤامرة
think of
نسائية على
marriage as a
الرجال.
women's conspiracy
صح؟
against men, right? Because
إن
A, man
يستطيع
can enjoy a
الرجل
woman for
يستطيع
1 or 2
الرجل
nights,
أن
10 or 20, and then
يتمتع
leave her.
بالمرأة ليلة ليلتين 10 20 ثم يتركها، وفي النهاية هي التي ستحمل، هي التي ستنجب، كما
In
يحدث
the
الآن
end,
في
she's the
الغرب.
one who
يعني
gets
دلوقتي
pregnant and
في
gives
الغرب
birth,
الآن
as is happening now in
الرجل
the
الذي لا
West.
يريد
Now in the
الزواج
West, a man who
هو
doesn't
الذي
want to get
يتركها.
married can still get married.
ولذلك بتلاقي
That's why you find
النسائيين
Western
الغربيين
celebrities who live for 20
اللي هو
years in
عايش
sin and
20
have
سنة في
children with
الحرام
her, but in the
وخارج
end,
منها
she's
كده
not
ما
his
جابش بر.
wife, and if he wants
وللأسف
to,
بقى إن
divorce her,
المرأة
she
لا
can't take
تستطيع
half.
أن تأخذ نصف أمواله كما هي القوانين الغربية.
His money, as is the
لكن
case under Western laws,
الإسلام
but
جعل
Islam made it so that a man can
إذا
enjoy a woman,
تزوج
he must be
الرجل
responsible
من
for her and his
المرأة
children
بالمرة
with her her for the rest of his.
أن يكون مسؤولا عنها وعن أولاده منها بقية حياته. بقية
Life,
الحياة.
this is the highest and most precious thing given to
وهذا
women.
أرفع
This is the most
وأعز
precious
ما
and
منح
valuable
للمرأة.
gift bestowed upon women because, truly,
هذا
if a
أرفع
woman steps
وأعز ما
outside the
منح
veil of
للمرأة.
morality,
والمرأة
outside
حقيقة
the
إذا
fortress of
خرجت
religion, she will
خارج
be lost in
ستار
this.
الأخلاق، خارج حصن الدين، فإنها ستكون ضائعة في هذه الحياة. وهو
Life,
والله
and by
لفظ
God, this is
حاصل
inevitable. The world
حاصل.
is full of.
يعني الدنيا ملأى بالمآسي. يعني ما يقال عنه تحرير المرأة وتمكين المرأة وحرية المرأة، كل هذا ينصب أذاه وضرره على المرأة نفسها. لأن المرأة إذا صارت مطمعا للرجال ولم يكن لهم من أنفسهم رادع، أو لم يكن لهم دين يرضع، لم تكن في مجتمعاتهم تقاليد ترضع، من الضائع؟ هذه المرأة. فالقصد يا
Tragedies,
أحباب
what is
من
called
سرد
women's
سلسلة
liberation, women's
هذه
empowerment, and
يعني
women's
حتى في
freedom,
زمن
all of this
الفتن
harms
التي
and
تكون
damages women
أهم وأشد،
themselves. Because if a woman becomes an object of
لأنه
desire for
هذا
men and men
الزمن
have no
يعني
self-restraint
ليس
or no
عندنا
religion to
فقط
nurture them,
ابتلاء
and their societies
بالحياة
lack traditions
اللذيذة
to protect
والشهوة
them, then the woman
والمتعة،
will be lost.
بل
So,
لدينا
my dear
امتلاء
friends, the
في
issue of
الفساد.
facilitating marriage is even more
يعني أنت
important and
الآن
critical in
تجد
these times
أغاني
of
التلفزيون
tribulation. Because in
كلها
this era, we
دعاية
don't
حب،
just have
كل
a lack of
المسلسلات عن الحب،
restraint
كل
in matters
الأفلام
of
عن الحب،
instinct,
كل
lust, and immodesty, but
لدرجة
also a
إنه
lack of
الشاب
emotional
ملتزم ولو ما
restraint.
حبش
All the
فعنده مشكلة.
songs, novels,
يعني
TV
هو لازم
series,
يحب برضه،
and
ما يعني
movies are about love to the
ولذلك
point that a young
عارفين
man feels that if he doesn't love, he has a problem. He
أحيانا لما
feels
يحب
he
على
has to
فترات،
love
في
too.
ناس
That's
فعلا
why
كده
we
بيبقى عندها
sometimes call it love for
طاقة
himself.
من الحب،
There are people who are
فأي واحدة
truly
كده
like
بيلاقي
that. She
واحدة
has an
كده
energy
بتركب
of
معاه
love, so
بتركب مع قصد المواصلات،
any girl he meets, any
بيقابلها
girl who
كده
rides with him in a
يطمنها،
taxi, any girl he rides with on public
فهو في
transport,
نفسه
any girl he meets at college, he'll be
وإيلاه
attracted to
بمسألة
her. So
التيسير في
I advise
الزواج
myself and you regarding the
والتريث في
issue of
الزواج
facilitating
على
marriage. Of
برضه
course,
نستدرك.
facilitating marriage
التيسير في
also
الزواج
requires
لا
us
يعني
to
التفريط
realize
فيه.
that facilitating marriage
يعني في
does not mean
النهاية الرجل
neglecting the
يقاس بقدرته على
girl.
تحمل
In the end, a
المسؤولية،
man is measured by
لا
his
يعني
ability
يقصد
to bear
الزواج
responsibility.
إنه
Facilitating
أن تضع
marriage does not
مثلا
mean placing your daughter
عند
with
من
someone you
لا
do
تعرف
and know
أنه
is worthy,
جدير
someone you
بذلك،
don't know is worthy of
من لا
being a
تعرف
man,
أنه
because both
جدير
sides of the
بأن
matter
تكون
are
رجلا،
ugly. It's
علشان كلا طرفي قصد الأمور ذميم. واضح يا جماعة؟ طيب
clear, everyone, so
طبعا
let's pray for the Prophet. Inshallah, Ali, may God be pleased with him, married
ففي
Fatima.
شوال
Also, among the
زوجها
events that
رضي الله
occurred in
عنه
the
لفاطمة.
second
كذلك
year of the
من
Hijra was that it was
الأحداث
also
التي
the
حصلت
first year
في
in which
العام الثاني من
Muslims
الهجرة
celebrated Eid
الذي كان
al-Adha. That
أيضا
is, it was the first
أول
year in
عام
which they
شهد فيه
celebrated Eid
المسلمون عيد
al-Fitr, and it
الأضحى.
was
يعني هو كان أول عام شهدوا فيه عيد الفطر، وهو أيضا أول عام شهدوا فيه عيد الأضحى. ولئن
also the
كان
first year in which they
عيد
celebrated Eid
الفطر
al-Adha.
جاء بعد
However,
صيام
since
شهر
Eid
رمضان
al-Fitr
فعيد
came after
الأضحى
fasting the
احتفل به
month of
المسلمون قبل أن
Ramadan, Eid
يتوجهوا
al-Adha
إلى
was
الحج إلى
celebrated by Muslims before they were
الكعبة
able to
المشرفة
perform
في
Hajj to the Holy
السنة
Kaaba.
الثانية
We are now in
من
the second
الهجرة.
year of the Hijra, and on that
ففي
day,
ذلك
on the
اليوم
10th
اللي هو
day of
يوم
Dhul
العاشر من ذي الحجة
Hijjah, the Prophet,
خرج
peace and
النبي
blessings
صلى
be
الله
upon
عليه
him, went out,
وسلم
prayed the
فصلى العيد وخطب في الناس، ثم ضحى بكبشين
Eid
أملحين
prayer and delivered a
بيضاء
sermon
وضحى
to the people.
معه
Then he
يوم النحر
sacrificed two
من
white
أصحابه
castrated
رضوان الله
rams.
عليهم.
Those of his
فذكر النبي صلى
companions who
الله
were
عليه
well off
وسلم هذه
also
النسك
sacrificed with
وقال:
him. May God be pleased with
من
them. The
فعل
Prophet, peace and
ذلك قبل
blessings be
الصلاة
upon
قبل
him,
صلاة
mentioned
العيد
this
فإنما هو
ritual and
أحسن
said,
له.
whoever does this before
لكن
the Eid prayer,
الأضحية
it
هي
is merely
الشعيرة
meat he has
والنسك
provided
التي
for
تكون
his
بعد الصلاة.
family. But the
وأنت
sacrifice, which
إذا
is the
حاولت
true
أن
ritual, an
تتصور
act of worship, is the one performed
كيف
after the
عاش
prayer.
المسلمون
If you
في
try to
ذلك الوقت
imagine
عيد
how
الأضحى
Muslims lived Eid al-Adha
فسنجد
at that time, you
سنجد
will find
أنه
the following. We
سيظل
have a second
موسم
season
ثان من
of
أعياد
Muslim holidays
المسلمين
in which they gather
يجتمعون
and
فيه
celebrate, and there
ويحتفلون
is
ويكون بينهم فيه تكافل وتراحم من خلال الأضحية
solidarity and
والتضحية،
compassion among them through the
ويكون نوعا
sacrifice and its
من
distribution.
الشعائر
It is a kind
الجماعية،
of
لأن هذه
collective
الأيام
ritual because
أيام
these
تشريق،
days, the
أيام
days of
تكبير
Tashriq, are days of takbir, saying
تكبير
Allahu
بعد
Akbar
الصلاة
after the
كما
prayers, as is
معروفة
well
تكبير
known. There is
مطلق.
also
يعني
unrestricted
يستحب
takbir
في
because it is
هذه
recommended
الأيام
to recite
التلبية،
takbir during
والتكبير
these
المطلق
days,
الذي
both
يكون
in
في
the streets
الشوارع
and in the
والذي يكون في
markets.
الأسواق.
These
فهذه أيام يعني أيضا أيام جديدة، أحداث جديدة
days
تعيش فيها
also
المجتمع
represent new
الإسلامي
days and new
وضعا
events
جديدا.
in which the Muslim
وأيضا فإن
community
عيد الأضحى هذا
experiences a
يربط
different
المسلمين
situation.
بمن
Furthermore, this Eid
بإبراهيم
al-Adha
عليه السلام.
connects Muslims to Abraham,
ونحن ما
peace be upon
زلنا
him. We just
قد
emerged a few months ago from a great
خرجنا
event
قبل
related
أشهر
to
قليلة من حادث عظيم يتعلق بإبراهيم، وهو من
Abraham
يأتي
and who brought it.
لا، أنا
No,
لا
no,
أتكلم
I'm
على
talking about the companions at
الصحابة
that
في
time.
ذلك الوقت.
A few months ago they had another important event that connected them to Abraham, which is the event of the change of the Qibla, didn't we?
نعم. تحويل القبلة.
Say the change of the Qibla, folks, it was in the month of Rajab in the second year of the Hijrah, right? And we mentioned at that time that the Prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, and the Holy Quran mentioned the story of the building of the house, and it mentioned, and when Abraham was raising the foundations of the house with Ishmael, and it mentioned, and who would turn away from the religion of Abraham, except one who makes himself a fool, and it mentioned, say we have believed in God and in what was revealed to us. All of this means that it connects Muslims to Abraham, peace be upon him, and this is another act that connects Muslims to Abraham. So, here, what is the act that is connected to Abraham, that God must love nothing more than him? Because what is the meaning of Eid al-Adha? The meaning of Eid al-Adha is that God, blessed and exalted is he, granted Abraham Ishmael in his old age. Praise be to God who has bestowed upon me in my old age Ishmael and Isaac. And when Ishmael reached the age of striving, meaning adolescence, he said, "O my son, indeed I have seen in a dream that I am sacrificing you." Of course, scholars have much to say about this, especially those who specialize in spiritual refinement and education. They say that God, blessed and exalted is he, wanted to show that Abraham's heart had become attached to Ishmael, or that Abraham's heart had grown fond of Ishmael, so God wanted to purify the heart of his close friend so that nothing should compete with the love of God. He said, "Oh, my son, indeed I have seen in a dream that I am sacrificing you. So consider what you think. This is the majesty of the prophet Abraham, may God bless him and grant him peace. God told me that I am sacrificing you, so I will sacrifice you. And with this is the majesty of his son Ishmael. He said, "Oh, my father, do as you are commanded, you will find me, God willing." And when he submitted and laid him down on his forehead, meaning that was the end of it, relief came from God, blessed and exalted is he. And we called to him, "O Abraham, you have fulfilled the vision. Thus we reward the doers of good. Indeed, this is the way of God. It is a clear trial, and we ransomed him with a great sacrifice." So now, my brothers, try to live the life of a Muslim man. At the end of the second year of the Hijrah, a state was established, laws were revealed, society stabilized, we had jihad and victories. We are now in Dhul Hijjah, and we had three great victories. We had a number of expeditions, but we had three major battles: the Battle of Badr, the Battle of Banu Sulaim, and the Battle of Banu Qainuqa. And if we want to talk about the Muslims' ability to pursue Abu Sufyan in the Battle of Suwayq, which we mentioned and which took place in Dhul Hijjah, it was in the first days of Dhul Hijjah. Remember when we said that Abu Sufyan, because the Quraysh had sworn an oath, had sworn that he would not touch water after ritual impurity until he conquered Medina? We mentioned that he went out with 200 men, meaning 200 horsemen, and that he came to Medina and raided a region called Al-Arid, killing 2 men from the Ansar and burning palm trees. Then the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, went out. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, captured him and pursued him for a distance of 170 meters. In their panic they threw away the barley porridge they had with them. That's why it was called the Battle of the Barley Pilgrimage. Now we have here signs of stability, signs of attachment, signs that might lead to attachment to this world, attachment to the new place, attachment to money, attachment to children, because the immigrants were having children. So Remind them of God, the blessed and exalted, on this Eid, that there should be something more beloved to their hearts than God, the blessed and
تمام. طيب. ف مما ينبغي أن نذكره هنا أيضا، هذا أمر مهم وأظن أن هذه مناسبته. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم حين قدم إلى المدينة وجد عند أهل المدينة يومان هما عيد لهما أو عيدان لهما، فقال قد أبدلنا الله خيرا منهما يوم الفطر ويوم الأضحى.
exalted. Okay, good. Another thing we should mention here is this important matter, and I think this is the occasion for it. When the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, arrived in Medina, he found that the people of Medina had 2 days that were their Eid or 2 Eids. He said, God has replaced them with something better, the day of Eid al-Fitr and the day of Eid al-Adha. Okay. Pray for the
مسألة تهنئة غير المسلمين بأعيادهم.
Eid, my friends, is from religious rituals. The Eid is one of the religious rituals. What does it mean that it is one of the religious rituals? It means that the Eid is part of the religion. The Eid for Muslims is part of the religion. Okay, so why does the battle ignite every year and someone comes and
لماذا تشتعل المعركة في كل سنة ويجي واحد يقول لك فيها ايه يا اخي لما اقول لزميلي المسيحي بالذات اللي بيبقى عايش في الغرب، ما هو زميلي المسيحي ده بيجي في عيد الفطر وبيقول لي كل سنه وانت طيب، ايش ليه انا ما اجيش في عيد
tells you what's wrong with that, brother? When I say to my Christian colleague, especially the one who lives in the West, my Christian colleague comes on Eid al-Fitr and says to me, Happy Eid, why don't I come on Easter or Easter and say to him, Happy Eid? What's the difference, guys? Let me tell you the difference. Leave what we said aside and let's go to another topic.
دول وطنية قومية علمانية في
We are
حقيقة
now in countries that are national, secular, and patriotic. In reality, okay, every country has a holiday that expresses its glories. For example, in Egypt we celebrate the October Victory Day. The Egyptians crossed the canal and achieved the military miracle. Every day, October 6, 1973, we have a
كل يوم 6 أكتوبر 73 عندنا عيد الاحتفال بالنصر، عندنا 25 ابريل عيد تحرير
holiday to
سيناء.
celebrate the victory. We have April 25, the Sinai Liberation Day. So, is it appropriate for someone to come, for example, on October 6, 1973, and send congratulations to the Egyptian state for its victory in 1973? Let's leave aside.
للدولة المصرية بانتصارها في 73. سيبك دلوقتي من انتصروا ولا ما انتصروش، ده موضوع تاني.
For now, the question of who won or lost, that's a different matter. I'm only talking about the verse. We're celebrating our victory in 73. Is it acceptable for an Israeli to come and say, Congratulations on this precious victory, you crushed us and humiliated us? No, it's not acceptable. Okay, fine, would it be acceptable for an Egyptian? Would the
واحد مصري يجي يوم 5 يونيو 67
Egyptian state allow an Egyptian to come on June 5, 1967 and send a congratulatory telegram to the Israeli state saying, Congratulations and Happy New Year, God willing. Next year you'll achieve an even greater victory than your victory. In 67, the issue is perfectly clear. It's clear, but why is it clear? Because when we turn to
واضح ليه؟ لان احنا لما قلبنا على الدولة العلمانية بقينا فاهمين انه ما ينفعش
secularism, we understood that it's unacceptable for a state to congratulate another on a holiday it opposes. It's perfectly clear. Have you ever seen a Christian, for example, send congratulations to the Turkish state on the anniversary of the conquest of Constantinople, saying congratulations?
فتح القسطنطينية وإزالة الإمبراطورية
On the conquest of Constantinople and the fall of the empire, the Byzantine Orthodox Church, he remains Orthodox, and he doesn't see this day as a catastrophe. It's a catastrophe for him so clearly. Why is this so clear? To states but not to religion, because we live under a secular nation state, so we understand.
علمانية. ففاهمين بوضوح شديد معنى العيد عند الدولة.
Very clearly the meaning of a holiday for the state. We understand that when I congratulate my enemy on their victory day, it's high treason and a departure from patriotism. We also understand that it's unacceptable for another's enemy to congratulate me on my victory over them. No, one sees this lack of congratulations as a form of social rudeness, bad manners, or poor communication. It's normal even if an Egyptian and an Israeli work for the same company in any country in America or elsewhere. Neither of them would
73 دولة
congratulate the
من
other on the
65.
1973 anniversary or the 1967 anniversary.
نسيب
Let's
بقى
leave
جو
aside the secular
العلمانية
state and try to
ونحاول
return
أن
to this
نرجع
religious
لهذا على
perspective.
الدين.
We will
هنقول
understand
له
clearly
إنه لا يجوز أن تهنئ غير المسلم بقيامة
that it
المسيح،
is not permissible to
وهو
congratulate a
بيحتفل
non-Muslim.
بالرب
By
الذي
celebrating the
صلب كفرا
resurrection of
وحرام.
Christ, he is commemorating the Lord who was crucified, buried,
أصول
and
الإسلام
resurrected. The very
أن
foundation
الله
of Islam
تبارك
is that
وتعالى
God
عن
Almighty is
هذا
above all
التوحيد
this and that.
وأن
Jesus
عيسى
was
هو
a human
الحق
being.
وأن
This human being was not
أصحاب
even
المسلم ولم
crucified
ولم
or
يقولوا.
buried, so the
فمسألة
issue of
عدم
Muslims
الانساب
congratulating
تهنئة المسلمين
non-Muslims on their
بقيامتهم
holidays is not a matter of
لا
social
تدخل أيضا في
courtesy.
مسألة
It's just that
المجاملات
the issue has
الاجتماعية.
become unclear in our
إنما
minds
هي
because we
بصفة
are under the
واضح
sway
وضعت
and
هذه المسألة
domination
لأن
of
احنا
secular
عايشين
culture.
تحت سطوة وهيمنة وثقافة علمانية اللي هو تبع الدولة فاهمينه كويس، لكن الدين ده
Which is
حرية
controlled
شخصية
by the
ومسألة
state. We
شخصية
understand that well, but
يعني
religion is a
موضوع
personal
بسيط.
freedom, a personal matter. So what does it mean? It's a simple
فالنبي
matter.
صلى
When
الله
the
عليه وسلم
Prophet,
حين
peace
قال
and blessings
أبدلنا
be upon
الله
him, said,
بيومين
God has replaced 2 days with 2
خيرهما
better
عيد
ones,
الفطر
Eid
والأضحى،
al-Fitr and Eid
كان
al-Adha,
يشير
he
إلى هذا
was
المعنى.
referring to this
ما
meaning.
ينفعش المسلم
It's not
بعد ما قرأ
appropriate
عيد
for a
الفطر وعيد
Muslim
الأضحى
after
يتعلق به الأعياد
learning about Eid
الجاهلية.
al-Fitr
الأعياد
and Eid
الأصول
al-Adha to cling to
وثنية وأصولها
pre-Islamic
ثابتة
holidays or holidays whose origins
بأصولهم
are pagan
ماشي.
or contrary to the principles of prophethood.
ومما
And what
وقع
also
أيضا في
happened in the
السنة
second year we said so
الثانية
far,
احنا
how
قلنا
many
مثلا في
things
سنة
happened we
11
said, how many, what?
قلنا كم؟ اثنين ايه هم؟ تمام. انت كنت بتقول
Okay,
كام
you
تاني؟
were, why are you saying 3? Oh, you have many, we said many, I meant in this gathering. Okay, generally,
الأصل
at
في
the
هذا
end of the
ماشي.
gathering, whoever mentions the people
ماشي.
from last
هم
time and this
الثلاثة
time we will give him a
الرئيسيين بتاع المرة اللي
prize,
فاتت
God
والمرة
willing.
دي نبقى نديهم
Okay,
جايزة إن
pray
شاء
for
الله.
him, and among what happened at
تمام.
the end of the
صلوا على
10th
النبي.
year was the death of
ومما وقع في نهاية السنة العاشرة وفاة سيدنا عثمان بن مظعون.
our
وسيدنا
master
عثمان
Uthman
رضي
ibn
الله عنه
Maddan. And our master Uthman ibn
اليهودي
Maddan, why do
وهو أشهر
biographers
عنده
stop at him? Because he
لأنه
was the
كان
first of the
أول
emigrants who died in
المهاجرين
Medina and the
للمهاجر
first to be
بالمدينة
buried in al-Baqi.
وأول
Okay, in
الذين
addition
دفنوا
to
في
him
البقيع.
being one of the leaders of the
تمام. فضلا عن كونه كان رجلا من سادات المسلمين ومن السابقين للإسلام. سيدنا عثمان بن مظعون
Muslims and one
هذا
of the
أحد
early
الصحابة
converts to
الذين
Islam. Our master,
تستطيع أن
Uthman
تعتبر
ibn
أنه
Maddan,
خاص.
this is one of the companions who you can consider
سيدنا
a special
عثمان بن
case.
مظعون
Our master Uthman
هو
ibn
أولا
Maddan was
جمحي.
firstly from the
جمحي
Juma
يعني
tribe,
من بني
meaning from the
جمح.
Banu
تمام.
Juma. Okay, does anyone remember who
ومن
his
كان
masters were?
أسود
The
بني
Banu
جمح
Juma were
أمية بن
Umayyah
خلف
ibn Khalaf
وأبي
and
لهب.
Ubay ibn
تمام.
Khalaf.
دول
Okay, these are the heads of
رأس الكفر.
disbelief.
وأبي خلف
As for the
دول
Banu Khalaf,
الجماحية.
they are the
فسيدنا
Juma, so our
عثمان كان
master,
من بني
Uthman was
جمح.
from the Banu Juma, and our master Uthman was
وكان سيدنا
also the
عثمان
son-in-law of our master
كان
Umar,
صهر
Ibn
سيدنا عمر
al-Khattab,
بن
because our
الخطاب
master Umar married
لأن
Zainab
سيدنا
bint
عمر
Madan,
تزوج
and
بزينب بنت مظعون وزينب بنت مظعون هذه أنجبت لسيدنا عمر عبد الله بن
this
عمر
Zainab bint Madan our
صحابي
master Omar gave birth to.
وحفصة
Abdullah
أم
bin
المؤمنين.
Omar, the well-known companion, and
تمام. يبقى
Hafsa, the
سيدنا
mother
عثمان
of
ده
the
بالنسبة
believers.
لعبد الله بن
So, our
عمر
master Uthman
وحفصة
in
يبقى إيه؟
relation to Abdullah bin Omar and
عمهم.
Hafsa is their
تمام.
maternal uncle.
طيب جميل.
Okay, beautiful. Our
سيدنا
master
عثمان بن
Uthman
مظعون
bin
كان من
Mazan was among the
السابقين
first to
للإسلام.
embrace Islam. The
يقول
biographers
أهل
say that he
السيرة
embraced
أنه
Islam
أسلم
after 13.
بعد 13 رجلا من المسلمين. يبقى هو كان رقم كام في الإسلام؟
Muslim men,
رقم
so what
4.
number was he in?
لكن سيدنا
Islam,
عثمان
number 14, but our
على
master
قصر
Uthman,
عمره
despite
في
his short
الإسلام
life
إلا
in
أنه
Islam, was famous
اشتهر
for being a source of
بكونه
enthusiasm, strength,
طاقة من
and
الحماسة.
eagerness, and he had
طاقة من الحماسة والقوة والحرص وله في ذلك مواقف شهيرة وعديدة. أولا سيدنا عثمان بن
many
مظعون
famous stances in that
كان من
regard.
هاجر إلى
Firstly, our
الحبشة
master Uthman bin
هو
Maz'un
ابن
was among
السائب
those who migrated to
وبعد
Abyssinia
ذلك
along
عاد
with
إلى
his
مكة
son
ثم
Al-Saib.
هاجر إلى
After that,
المدينة
he
ثم
returned to
شهد
Mecca,
بدرا.
then migrated to Medina, and then witnessed the Battle
سيدنا
of
عثمان
Badr.
بن
Our
مظعون
master Uthman ibn
أول
Maddan, one of the great
المواقف
stances
الكبيرة
we
التي
see.
نراها. لو تذكرون نحن قلنا أنه قد سرت إشاعة عند
If
مهاجرة
you recall,
الحبشة
we said that a
بأن
rumor spread
قريشا
among the
أسلموا
emigrants
لما
to
سجدوا
Abyssinia that the
بعد
Quraysh
أن
had
سمعوا
converted to
سورة
Islam
النجم.
after prostrating upon
فعاد
hearing Surah
بعضهم
and
فادعوا
Najm.
قريشا
Some
أن
of them
تسلم.
returned and found that the
وفي ذلك
Quraysh had not
الوقت
converted.
دخل
At that
بعضهم في
time,
جوار
some of
بعض
them sought the
الناس.
protection of others,
تمام.
this
الجوار
protection in
والحماية. بالمصطلح
Modern
المعاصر
terms is like
اعتبره
acquiring
قادم من
citizenship in a
بلد
specific
معين
country
حتى
so the country they
ما
left or
بقاش
fled from could no
البلد
longer
الذي
reach
خرج
them.
منه
This
أو هرب
protection
منه
is what we
يستطيع
call
أن
sanctuary. Uthman
يطأه.
ibn Madan
هذا
sought the
الجوار هو
protection of
الحماية.
al-Walid ibn
فدخل عثمان
al-Mughira, the
بن
chief of
مظعون في جوار الوليد بن المغيرة. الوليد بن المغيرة سيد بني مخزوم، الرجل الكبير اللي قاعد في مكة ده وهو
Banu
أمير
Maxim, the
أغنى
great
أهل
man
مكة.
residing in Mecca, the
لكنه
wealthiest of
لما
the
عاد
wealthy people of Mecca. But
ورأى
when
أن
he saw that the
المسلمين
Muslims were being harmed,
يؤذونه
he could not bear to see himself and
لا
his
يتحمل
fellow
نفسه أن
Muslims
يكون
vulnerable
له
to harm, so
أماما
he went to al-Walid ibn
إخوانه
al-Mughira
المسلمين
and
في
said to
مكة.
him, I want to withdraw your
فذهب إلى الوليد بن المغيرة وقال له أريد أن أرد عليك جوارك، اللي هو يعني
protection,
إيه،
meaning,
أنا
I want
عايزك
you to
تصفر
revoke my
الجنسية ده
citizenship or revoke my
أقطع الجواز ده
passport.
وامسح
In
لي
modern
الجواز.
terms, al-Walid asked,
تمام.
why my
فقال
nephew,
وليد
perhaps
بن
someone
المغيرة
from my
هل
tribe has
أحد
harmed
منهم
you?
آذاك؟
Uthman
قال لا
replied,
والله،
no, by God, but God's protection is more
ولكنني
secure than
والله
yours.
أمنع من جوارك. طيب
Okay, so go
فرض
with me
معي
to the mosque and
بمسجد
announce to the
وأعلن في
people that I
الناس
have returned your
أنك
protection to you.
أني قد رددت
So,
عليك جوارك.
al-Walid bin
فقام
al-Mughira
الوليد
went
بن
out to the
المغيرة
mosque, which is the
إلى
sacred house,
المسجد
meaning in a
المقدس الحرام
courtyard of
يعني،
people, and said,
في ساحة
O
من
people of
الناس، وقال يا
Quraysh,
معشر
Uthman bin
قريش
Madan.
إن عثمان بن مظعون قد طلب أن يرد علي جواري.
Has
تمام.
asked that my
فقال
protection be
عثمان بن
returned to
مظعون
me.
نعم وقد
Uthman said,
صدق
yes, and he has
وذلك
spoken the truth and done
أن
well,
جاءني في
meaning
جواره
indeed I
شيء
did not
وصدق
suffer anything in his protection, and he has
ولكن
spoken
جوار
the
الله
truth and
أمنع
done
من
well,
جواري.
but God's
طيب
protection is
تمام.
more secure than his
لم
protection.
ينتهي الموقف
Okay, the
إلا وفي
situation did not
مجلس
end until there was a
من
gathering
كفار
of the
قريش الموجود.
disbelievers of Quraysh present, in
جلس
which
فيه عثمان بن مظعون وفيه غيره، وكان ينشد
Uthman
فيه
bin
شاعر
Madan
من
was
أصحاب
sitting, and there were
العبارات
others, and a
وهو
poet from the
لبيد بن
authors of the
ربيعة.
Mu'allaqat, who
تمام.
is Labid bin Rabia,
فطبعا
was
لبيد بن
reciting
ربيعة
to them.
له
Of course,
معلقة
Labid
مشهورة
bin
تطلعه
Rabia has a famous
كل
Mu'allaqah, the
شيء
opening of
دخل
which is,
الله
everything
باطله وكل
besides
نعيم
God
لا
is false
محالة
and every
زائل
pleasure is
طبعا
inevitably fleeting.
قصيدة
It
معروفة.
is a well
فأنشد لبيد يقول ألا كل شيء ما خلا
known
الله
poem, so
باطله.
Labid
فقال
recited,
عثمان
saying,
وصدقت
everything besides God is
وكل
false.
نعيم لا
Uthman
محالة
said, you have
زائل
spoken the
كرهه
truth, and
ثبات
every pleasure is
نعيم
inevitably
الجنة لا
fleeting.
يزول.
Uthman said, you have lied, the pleasure of paradise does not
فقال
end.
يا
So
معشر
Labid said, O
قريش
people of Quraysh,
منذ
since when
متى
has your
كان
companion been
يؤذيكم
harmed among you?
حديثكم. هذه أول مرة دي إيه واحد يرد على
This is the
أهله.
first
فقال
time
بعضهم
someone has
لبعض
responded. To a
تعتبر
companion,
هذا
a man
ساحرا
from the group
قد
said,
صد
leave
عن
him alone,
دينه في
he's a
زمن
fool who has
موسى
strayed from our
أسوة.
religion among a group of fools.
فتلا
So
حيا
he and
هو
Uthman
وعثمان
ibn Madan
وغيره
argued and fought. The result was
اتخانقوا.
that this man
كانت
slapped
النتيجة أن هذا الرجل لطم سيدنا عثمان على عينه حتى اسودت عيناه، يعني
Uthman
خرج
in
من
the eye
بصره
until it
بيضة
turned
في عينه.
black. He, left with a severe injury to
وهو
his eye,
خارج
as he
رآه
was.
من
Leaving
وراه
Walid ibn
الوليد بن المغيرة
al-Mughira, who had
اللي هو
just
كان
had his
لسه
passport
مقطع
cut off,
الباسبور
saw
بتاعه.
him and said, my nephew, by
قال
God,
له
your eye
يا
was
أخي
fine without what
والله
happened
لقد
to it.
كانت
If you were
عينك
under
في
my
غنى
protection
عما
now, no one
أصابك.
would have dared to
أنت
do
دلوقتي لو
this.
كنت في جواري كانش حد يقدر يعمل كده. فقال والله إن عيني الصحيحة لفقيرة إلى مثل ما أصاب أختها وإني لفي جوار أعز منك. هذا
Uthman
يخبرك عن
replied, by God, my other
صدق
eye is in need
وشخصية
of the same as
سيدنا
its sister, and I
عثمان
am under the
طيب
protection of
أين
someone
موقفه؟
more honorable than you. This tells you
سيدنا
about the
عثمان بن
character and
مظعون يبدو
personality of
أنه
Uthman
كان
ibn
رجلا شديد
Madan. Now
الشهوة.
let's take another example. Uthman ibn
فلذلك
Madan seems to have been
ذهب
a
إلى
man with
النبي صلى
a
الله عليه
strong
وسلم
sexual
وهو
appetite,
الأرجح
so he went to the
والهالك كان في
Prophet,
مكة.
peace
تمام. وقال يا رسول
and
الله
blessings
إني
be upon
رجل
him, most likely in
تاشب
Mecca, and
وأحب
said, O
العذوبة.
Messenger of God, I am a man for whom
فهل
celibacy is
تأذن لي
difficult.
في
Will
الخصام؟
you permit me to be castrated? The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him,
فقال
said,
النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لم أبعث بالرهبانية. ورد على عثمان. طبعا الحديث في الصحيحين وله روايات أخرى، في الأخرى مزيد وتفصيل، لكن
The Prophet,
الخلاصة أن
peace and
النبي
blessings
صلى
be
الله
upon
عليه
him, said,
وسلم
I was
لم
not
يأذن
sent with
لعثمان
monasticism.
في
This was in
الخصام
response
أو
to
في
Uthman. The
التبتل
hadith
اللي هو
is found in
الانقطاع
the
عن
two
النساء.
Sahihs Bukhari and
وقصة
Muslim,
ابن
and there are
عباس
other
برضه صورها
narrations with
والحديث
more
في الصحيحين
details. The
ولو
gist
أذن
is that the
له
Prophet,
رسول
peace and
الله
blessings be
لقبل.
upon him, did not
وده
permit
يعطيك
Uthman to
الصحابة
castrate
كانوا
himself
إلى
or to
أي حد
practice
يريدون
celibacy,
أن
which is abstaining from
يختصوا
women. Our
ويتجردوا
master, Sa'd ibn
ويتطهروا من
Abi
أمر
Waqqas,
الإسلام.
who
لكن
narrated the
مش
hadith in the
عايز
two
حتى
Sahihs,
الشهوة
said, if the
تؤثر
Messenger
عليه
of God
أو
had permitted him, we
يعني
would have
ينغص
castrated
عليه
ourselves. This
أمره.
shows you the extent to which The companions wanted to be free, detached, and dedicated to the cause of Islam. They did, and even want lust to affect them or disrupt their lives. But the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, advised Uthman to fast. You know the hadith, young men, whoever among you can abstain from sexual relations, let him marry, for it is more effective in lowering the gaze and guarding the marital bed. And whoever cannot, let him fast, for it will be a shield for him. So, when the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, addressed the issue of celibacy and castration, he advised him to fast. Okay, we'll see. Now pay attention to Uthman's state of mind at that time. This, by the way, was during a time when people boasted about virility, manhood, and frequent sexual intercourse. Women, you can imagine this mentality that wants to get rid of all this lust. When we went to the city, Aisha, may God be pleased with her, narrated that Khawla bint Hakim, the wife of Uthman bin Madam, entered upon her and found her in a disheveled state. Aisha said to her, "Why are you in this state?" Khawla said, "Our companion has no need for women, for he fasts during the day and prays at night." And
فإنه صائم بالنهار قائم بالليل. وهذا يدلك على إيه؟ على إن الوصية اللي خدها من
this
النبي صلى
indicates
الله
to
عليه
you
وسلم
what? On the authority of the Prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, he applied it in the strictest way possible, to the point that he was no longer concerned with women's affairs while he was married. Aisha mentioned this to the Prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace. So the Prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, met Uthman and said, "I was not sent with monasticism, and monasticism is not part of our religion. Do you not have an example in me?
أما لك في أسوة فإني أصوم وأفطر وأصلي وأفتر
Fast and break my fast, I pray and break my fast, and I marry women." But this tells you about the mentality of whom? Our master Uthman, and how he was. Look at the man who wanted to rid himself of his lust, seeing its intensity upon him. He became married, but his wife didn't see any need for women in him.
تحول إلى أنه متزوج ولكن امرأته لا ترى أن له حاجة بالنساء.
Our master Uthman ibn Mazan died in Dhu al-Hajjah of the second year of the Hijrah. He was staying in the house of a group of Ansar. The story of his death is narrated by an Ansar woman named al-Ala, the Ansari woman. She narrates the story because when the Ansar drew lots for the
لأنه حين اقترع الأنصار على سكن المهاجرين وقعت قرعة عثمان بن مظعون في
Muhajiran to stay with,
بيته
Uthman
بيت
ibn
قوم.
Mazan's lot fell on her house, the house of her people. We mentioned the days of brotherhood between the Muhajiran and the Ansar. No, Muhajir stayed with an Ansari except by drawing lots due to the Ansar's intense competition to host the Muhajiran. Al-Ala said he was with us during the illness from which he died, and
فشهدت دفنه والنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم
I
يدفنه.
witnessed his burial, and the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, buried him. It is narrated that when the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, saw Uthman ibn Mazan lying dead, he approached him and embraced him, and his eyes were overflowing with tears. Peace and blessings be upon him. Al-Allah said as he was burying him, "Congratulations to you on paradise." "O Abu al-Saib," the Prophet said, "and what?" She said, "O Messenger of God, he used to fast during the day and pray at night." In one narration he said, "Congratulations to you on paradise." In
أشهد لك يا أبا السائب أن الله أكرمك. فكان النبي يقول وما يدريك أنه في الجنة وفي رواية
another
وما
narration
يدريك
he
أن الله
said, "I
أكرمك.
bear witness for you, O Abu al-Saib, that God has honored you." The Prophet said, "How do you know that he is in paradise?" In another narration he said, "How do you know that God has honored him?" She said, "O Messenger of God, he used to fast during the day and pray at night. Who is it that God honors?" The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Uthman has attained certainty, and I hope for good for him, but even I, the Messenger of God, do not know what will be done with me." She said, "By God, I will not praise anyone after him."
فقالت
Of
فوالله لا أزكي بعده أحدا. طبعا
course,
ها
here our
هنا
Prophet, peace and blessings
نبينا
be
صلى
upon
الله عليه
him, is a
وسلم
truly
شخصية
remarkable figure in
عجيبة
terms
جدا
of balance and
في التوازن
composure. Look at the
والاتزان.
situation, a
يعني شوف
situation where
الموقف،
emotion and the
الموقف اجتمع
necessity of
فيه
teaching were
العاطفة
both present, yet
واجتمع
emotion
فيه
did.
ضرورة التعليم. لم تصرفه العاطفة عن التعليم. عارف انت لما بتبقى في موقف كده يهيمن عليه العاطفة، أحيانا يخجل الداعية ويستحي أن يذكر الخطأ الموجود، أو أحيانا تشعر بأن عددا من الدعاة فيهم جفاف وفيهم يبس،
Not distract him from
يخرجون
teaching.
به عن
You know,
العرض
when you are in a
كأن
situation like
قلوبهم
this where
تشعر
emotion
بالتأثر بالحديث.
dominates, sometimes the
شوف
preacher
سيدنا
is
النبي صلى الله
ashamed
عليه
and
وسلم
embarrassed to
وهو
mention the
يخطب
existing error.
وقف
Or sometimes you
ليعظه
feel that some
ويصحح،
preachers are
يعني لا
dry and
يصوب
rigid,
العاطفة
meaning they are
ويترك
detached from
التصحيح،
emotion as if their
ولا
hearts do
يصرفه
not
التعليم
feel what people
عن
feel. Look at our master the
العاطفة
prophet, peace and
الإنسانية.
blessings be upon him, while
هذا
weeping stood to teach
توازن
and correct.
عجيب
This means that his
بين
emotions
القدوة
did not
صلى
distract him
الله
from
عليه
his
وسلم،
corrective stance,
يعني
nor did
النبي
his
مات
teaching
وله
distract him
إبراهيم،
from human emotion. This is a
وإبراهيم
remarkable
ولد،
balance.
يعني
Therefore,
مات
the
قبل
prophet,
سقوط
peace and
إبراهيم مات
blessings be
النبي
upon him, is a
بمقدار
role
إنجابه
model.
وجاءه
For example,
ولده.
the
وكسفت
prophet's son Ibrahim
الشمس
died and he had not yet been
فكان
born.
الناس
All male
يقولون
children had
كسفت
died
لموت
before Ibrahim. The
إبراهيم،
prophet had rejoiced in him
وهو
and he came to
بهذه
him in his
الصفة
old
يقول
age. Then the sun was
إن
eclipsed and
الشمس
people said it was
والقمر
because of Ibrahim's death. Yet, in this
آيتان من آيات
calamity, he
الله
said, the sun and the
لا
moon are
يخسفان
two
للموت
signs from
وحده
God, they do
بآياته.
not eclipse for the death of anyone.
توازن
Or for my
عند
own
النبي صلى
life.
الله عليه وسلم.
This is the
أم
balance the
العلاء
prophet, peace
تقول
and blessings be upon him,
فحزنت،
possessed.
يعني
Al-Allah
كأنها
said, I was
تشعر
saddened as if she sensed that
أن
Uthman would not be
عثمان
saved,
لا
so she
ينجو.
grieved. Then she saw
فحزنت
Uthman ibn Mazan in a
فرضيت
dream with a flowing
بالله
spring.
وعثمان
She
في
went to the prophet,
المظالم
peace and blessings
وله
be upon
عين
him, and asked him
جارية،
about it.
فأتيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فسألته فقال ذلك عمله. العين
He said that
الجارية
is his
يعني
reward, the
ثواب
flowing
مستمر
spring,
غير
meaning a
منقطع.
continuous, uninterrupted reward.
والعلماء
Scholars
وقفوا
also
أيضا
pondered
ما هو
what
الثواب
constitutes a
المستمر غير
continuous,
المنقطع،
uninterrupted reward and
فوجدوا
found
أن
that
سيدنا
Uthman ibn
عثمان
Mazan
اليوم
possessed three
له
qualities
ثلاثة
that could
أمور
make him one of those who receive
يمكن أن
continuous,
تجعله من أهل
uninterrupted
الثواب
reward.
المستمر غير
The first
المنقطع.
is that he was
الأمر الأول أنه كان من الأغنياء، فرجل
wealthy. A
بنفسه
man of
سيدنا عثمان
Uthman
بن
ibn
مظاهر
Mazan's character and wealth is highly
وغناه
unlikely to lack such a reward,
يستبعد
ongoing
المال
charity and
لأنه صدقة
ongoing
جارية
charities.
وصدقات
This is about a
ويعطي.
man who was going to be
ده واحد
castrated,
رايح
so
يغطي،
naturally when
فطبيعي
he
لما يبقى
had
عنده
money, he
أموال
had to
له
leave
بالأمن
behind ongoing
يطلب
charity.
صدقة
He had a
جارية.
righteous
وكان له
son, his
ولد
son
سبق
Al-Saib,
ولده
who
السائب شهد بدرا ومات في زمن أبي بكر. تعرفين
witnessed
الحديث
the
اللي
Battle
قال
of
إن
Badr
كل
and
من قطع
died
من
during the
ذوي الله
time of Abu
الحجاب
Bakr.
صدقة
You know
سر
the
صدقة
hadith. When a
جارية
person
علم
dies, all their
ينتفع
deeds
به
cease,
وولد
except for three:
صالح
ongoing
يدعو
charity,
له.
knowledge that
في
benefits others,
حديث
and a
آخر
righteous child who
عن
prays
النبي
for
صلى
them.
الله
In
عليه
another hadith, the
وسلم
Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him,
أنه
mentioned
ذكر
guarding the
الرباط
frontiers in
في
the
سبيل
cause of
الله،
God and the reward for
أجر
doing
الرباط
so.
في سبيل
The
الله، فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كل
Prophet,
من
peace and
يتم
blessings be
على
upon him,
عمله.
said,
شكرا جزاكم الله خيرا. كل
every
ميت
deceased
يختم على
person's
عمله
deeds are
إلا
sealed
الله،
except for the one who guards the
فإنه
frontiers, for their
كلما له
deeds
عمله
continue to
إلى
grow
يوم القيامة.
until the day of resurrection. In
المرابط
another
الثاني
narration, the
في
Prophet,
رواية
peace and
أخرى
blessings be upon
ذكر
him,
النبي
mentioned that
صلى
the
الله
reward
عليه
for guarding the
وسلم في أجر
frontiers.
الرباط أنه يستمر إلى يوم القيامة. طيب، ف ولما مات إبراهيم ابن
Continues until
النبي
the
صلى
day of
الله عليه
resurrection.
وسلم
So
دفنه
when
النبي إلى
Ibrahim, the
جوار
son of the
عثمان
Prophet,
المظعون،
peace and blessings be upon him,
وقال
died,
له
the
هذه الكلمة
Prophet buried him
العجيبة،
next to Uthman
قال
ibn Madan and said this
الحق
amazing statement:
بسلفنا
join our
الصالح
righteous predecessor
عثمان بن
Uthman ibn
مظعون
Madan, may God be pleased with all the
رضي
Prophet's
الله عنه وعن
companions.
صحابة
This is
النبي
one of
أجمعين. تمام. ومن الأحداث التي يمكن أن نسجلها أيضا في الأوضاع
the events that we
الاجتماعية
can
في
also
مدينة
record
السنة
regarding the
الثانية للهجرة
social
ظهور
conditions in
النفاق.
Medina. In the
ظهور
second year of
النفاق
the
في المدينة.
Hijrah,
نحن قرأنا
hypocrisy
من آثار
appeared.
غزوة
In
بدر
Medina, we mentioned that one of the
أنه
effects of the Battle of Badr was that the
المشركين
polytheists
أسلموا
converted to
وبايعوا النبي
Islam
صلى
and
الله عليه
pledged allegiance
وسلم.
to the Prophet.
عبد الله
May
بن أبي
God bless
سلول
him and grant
وإلا
him
فأمره قد
peace.
توجه،
Abdullah bin Abi
وبالتالي
bin
صار لدينا كتلة
Salal
كبيرة في
says this is
المدينة
a
من
matter that has been
المؤمنين.
addressed, and thus we
طبعا
have a new group in
هذه
the city,
يعني
and it is a group
آراءهم
of
وسيأتي
course,
معنا
this means this is a matter that will
كثير.
come with many stories. Okay, how
طيب،
much time do we have
انتظر
left?
الآن
It's
الوقت
over.
انتهى.
Okay, everyone, time is up, so we
طيب،
will meet you, God willing, in the
انتهى
next session.
فنلقاكم إن شاء الله في المجلس القادم. نسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يعلمنا ما
We
ينفعنا
ask
وأن
God
ينفعنا بما
Almighty to
علمنا
teach
وأن
us
يزيدنا
what
علما.
benefits us, to
والسلام
benefit us with
عليكم
what He has
ورحمة
taught us,
الله
and to increase
وبركاته.
us in